All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a deep look at what could be the next huge shift in global finance. Guided by a really fascinating report from JP Morgan, we're going to explore how the fundamental plumbing of our financial system might be on the brink of a total rebuild. So, let's get into it. It all starts with the question that feels, well, almost ridiculous in today's world. You can shoot a message to someone on the other side of the planet and it gets there in a second. But moving money? I mean, serious money? It's like it's stuck in the dark ages. It takes days. So why is that? The answer is pretty deep-rooted in how the whole system was designed in the first place. The villain in this story is something called siloed ledgers. Okay, so picture this. You're trying to work on a big project with a bunch of people, but instead of a shared document or a group chat, everyone has their own separate secret notebook. At the end of every day, you'd have to waste hours going around checking everyone's notes just to make sure you all agree on what actually happened. That right there is basically how traditional finance works. Every bank has its own private record book, and settling a simple transaction is this slow, expensive, painful process of making sure all the notebooks match up. So let's put a name on it. Finance's big problem is that the whole system is built on these separate, fragmented pieces of information. Now, this isn't a new problem, but the way we might solve it, that is about to change big time. Just think about how assets have evolved, right? We started with actual paper certificates. Then we moved to digital entries, which, was a huge step up. But here's the catch. That information still lives on all those separate networks, which means you still have that slow, painful reconciliation process. So what's the next step? Well, it's something called tokenization, where the asset and the message about the asset live together on one single shared network. Okay, so how do we actually get to that future? Well, it's going to take nothing less than a digital revolution. We need a whole new set of tools for this new era. All right, tool number one is tokenization. And this is kind of the magic trick, right? It's the process of turning a real-world thing, like a stock, a bond, even a dollar bill, into a secure, programmable digital token that lives on a blockchain. It's not just a line item in some bank's private spreadsheet anymore. It's a living, breathing, smart object you can actually program and interact with. So you've got these cool new smart objects. Now what? Well, you use DeFi protocols. Think of these as the software, the engine that runs this new financial system. They're basically just self-executing bits of code, smart contracts, that can handle all sorts of financial services like trading or lending, automatically, without needing all those traditional middlemen. Okay, so this is where it gets really exciting. What happens when you put these two things together? The benefits are just huge. First off, you get what's called atomic settlement. That just means you can swap an asset for cash instantly. Boom, done. No more waiting around for days. Then you've got mutualized ledgers, which means cheaper, faster transactions for everybody. The programmable logic automates all that boring back office stuff. And my favorite part? Composability. You can literally snap these financial services together like Legos to build brand new products we haven't even thought of yet. But of course, there's a catch. There's always a catch, right? The world of DeFi as we know it today, well, it's kind of like the Wild West. It's incredibly innovative, sure, but it's way too risky for the trillions of dollars that big financial institutions manage. For it to work for the big players, it's got to be tamed. And look, don't just take my word for it. JP Morgan, in the report this whole deep dive is based on, says it flat out. A lot of the DeFi protocols out there today just are not designed for the world of mainstream finance. There's a really important piece missing. So what is that missing piece? It's all about safeguards. I mean, these are the things traditional finance has spent like a century perfecting. Things like knowing your customer to prevent money laundering, hardcore cybersecurity, data privacy, clear rules for governance, and maybe the most important one, having a clear legal process for when things go wrong. Any new system has to have these or it'll never be trusted. And that brings us to the hero of our story, institutional DeFi. See, it's not about throwing out the old system and starting over. It's about combining the best of both worlds. You take the incredible innovation of tokenization and DeFi protocols, and you fuse it with the trust and security that comes from traditional finance's safeguards. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But is anyone actually doing this? You bet they are. Let's head over to Singapore, where this theory is being put into practice as we speak. Enter Project Guardian. This is a huge initiative led by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who are, by the way, one of the most respected financial regulators on the planet. They've basically created this incredible sandbox and invited the heavy hitters. We're talking JP Morgan, DBS Bank, to come and play to test this stuff out for real. And what's cool is how they're doing it. It's super methodical. Step 1, they're using public blockchains, not private ones, to avoid creating new walled gardens. Step 2, they're tokenizing real important assets, like government bonds. Step 3, and this is crucial, they're using regulated banks as trust anchors to verify exactly who is participating. And finally, they're baking those must-have rules and regulations right into the code itself. And just so we're clear, this isn't some tiny little pilot program. We're talking about massive, massive scale. JP Morgan alone has already processed over, get this, $430 billion in transactions on its own tokenization platform. So yeah, this stuff works, and it works at a massive scale. So what's the final verdict from this whole experiment? Bottom line, it works. It's feasible. They proved that you can absolutely trade tokenized assets securely on a public blockchain using these DeFi protocols as long as you build in the right guardrails. The tech is there. The real challenge now, it's getting the entire industry to agree on a single set of rules so this can really take off. All right, so this brings us to the big finale. We've seen the problem, we've seen the solution, and we've seen the proof that it works. So what happens next? Where is all of this headed? Well, according to the JP Morgan report, we're basically looking at two possible futures. On one side of the coin, you have evolution. This is where the financial giants of today slowly adapt, they evolve, and they integrate this new technology into what they already do. On the other side, you have revolution. This is where brand new DeFi native players use this technology to completely disrupt the old guard and take over. The stakes really couldn't be higher. And this is where it gets really personal, because the changes we're talking about aren't just for Wall Street. This could completely change how you and I interact with our money every single day. So I'll leave you with this final thought. As these two worlds of finance collide, is your bank account about to become a smart contract? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.